Our next storyteller is another returning guest. This is, I don't even know, third, fourth, fifth time he's been on the show. He has been on the Best of Risk. He's got his own solo show called The Outcast that was here in the Gotham Storytelling Festival last fall. Really excited to have him here. Please welcome Dave Hugh.
When I was 13 years old in the late 80s, I was a shy and naive kid from the Bronx. I didn't have a lot of friends, and I spent a lot of my free time at home playing video games. And one of my favorite video games was Nintendo's Mike Tyson's Punch Out. All right, nostalgic. All right, you play Little Mack, an amateur boxer who's ambitious and driven, struggling his way through that boxing circuit to get a chance to be in the ring with Mike Tyson, the boxing champion of the world, and hopefully be the next one. And what I loved about that video game was the colorful characters you had to fight. Just to name a few. We have Glassjaw, this lanky white guy with a fragile jaw. He looks like he lives in Brooklyn. We got Ball Bull from Istanbul, Turkey, whose famous move is to just like charge you like a bull and give you an uppercut and knock you down. And Soda Pop Popinski from Moscow, Russia, that tries to fight you with a soda bottle. Pretty typical in the Bronx. Ironically, what I hated about the game was the opponents. They were impossible to beat. It was annoying and frustrating. I never got a chance to be in the ring with Mike Tyson. And this challenge truly reflected how I felt going to public school. It was predominantly black and Hispanic. I was literally the only Chinese kid in the entire school. And kids made fun of me. Not just because of the color of my skin, but the clothes I wore. During that time, everyone's clothes were loose and baggy. My clothes were fit and starch. Crew neck sweaters and beige corduroy pants from the Gap. Because my older sister, Debbie, worked at the Gap and we got the family discount. Yeah. And I struggled to make friends and stand up for myself. And teachers saw that, and they put me in a special class called the resource room. Just like a regular classroom, but smaller, so each student, like myself, got the attention they needed from the teachers. And one of the kids that I befriended, his name was Brian. And we shared one thing in common, our love for video games, especially Nintendo's Mike Tyson's Punch Out. And Brian reminded me a lot like Little Mack. He was ambitious and driven, but on the spectrum. And one day, he found a cheat code for the video game where you can avoid going through the boxing circuit and get directly in the ring with Mike Tyson. I remember one night I was over at Brian's house in his family living room, and on the TV, I saw a pixelated picture of Mike Tyson. And it said, "Mike is awaiting your challenge." And I see Brian punching in the cheat code with the game controller. And as soon as he hits enter, the screen just faded to black. And I felt my heart was pounding on my chest. I felt the adrenaline running through my body. I was so excited. You know that feeling that you get when you're on a roller coaster and it slowly gets to the top? I felt like I reached that climax that night, but my adrenaline started to wear off. And my body was numb because for over 5 minutes, me and Brian just sat there and stared at the black TV screen. I'm like, Brian, what the fuck, dude? And Brian, being so ambitious and driven and on the spectrum, he went to the back of the TV and he reset that video cable. In doing so, he inadvertently turned on the VCR. And I heard a tape playing. Shh. And then I hear funky disco music playing on the TV. Bum, 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 bum. And all I see is this gigantic, flesh-colored worm's head with a slanted eye staring at me. 13-year-old shy and naive me thought I was watching Animal Planet. And I was like, wow, cool soundtrack. Then I see the camera zooming out, and I see what looks like a man's hand gripping the body of the earthworm and squeezing the dear life out of it. And I could see the head just turning beet red, and the eye is dilating. And I felt so bad for that earthworm. It was stuck in like a field of hair. And I said, what's going on? And then suddenly the camera starts zooming out. And then I realized it's not a gigantic earthworm. It's a dude's fucking cock. I'm not watching Animal Planet. It's a porno movie. And it felt like I was watching Alien with Sigourney Weaver. Brian freaks out. He runs up to the VCR. He's pressing the eject button as hard as he can, and the tape spits out. And the TV resumes back to the video game. And now I'm in the ring with Mike Tyson, and I get knocked out in the first round. I was not ready for that challenge. After that night, I did not have a desire to play Mike Tyson's Punch Out again. A couple of weeks later, I remember one afternoon, I was taking a nap, and I had a dream. I don't recall what it was about, but just to satisfy everyone's curiosity, it must have been sexual. Because I felt this warm and fuzzy feeling in my groin, and this painful urge to take a piss. And before I can wake up and go to the bathroom, I felt this pop, and it felt like vinegar and baking soda just exploded out of me. And I woke up, and my pants was completely wet. And I freaked out. And 13-year-old me ran to the bathroom. And I put my hand in my pants. And I took it out, and I looked at my palm, and it was white and gooey. I was like, what the fuck? Did I just piss out Elmer's glue? And I was scared. And I just remember I took my solo pants and shorts, and I threw it deep in the hamper. And I put additional clothes over it, even if it was dirty or not. And I hopped in the shower, and I took a bar of Irish Spring, and I started scrubbing down my groin. I made sure it was clean as a whistle. I was embarrassed and scared to tell my mom and dad. And the only person I can trust was Brian. Yeah, right. And I remember one afternoon, I was over at his house in his living room playing Super Mario Brothers. And I told him what happened. And he put the game on pause, and he had this blank stare on his face. And he says, David, you have cancer. And he said that white shit that shot out of you is your bone marrow. And eventually you can go cripple and die. I was devastated, and I just started to cry. And that night, I had to tell Mom and Dad, no matter how embarrassed and scared I was. I remember I sat down with my mom and told her about the incident. And she had this somber look on her face. And she said, David, did you throw it in a hamper? I said, yes. And she said, it's normal, because your body's going through changes. You're becoming a man. Does that mean I'm not going to die? No, David. And I felt this weight lifted off my shoulders. Looking back at it today, just like Little Mack struggling his way through the boxing circuit, I was going through my own struggles. I was trying to fit in at school and go through the cycles of puberty. And although I never got a chance to beat Mike Tyson and become the boxing champion of the world, I became a man that's ambitious and driven. Thank you.